My name is Emma. I am 34 years old, and I live alone in a modest, sunlit condo in Ballard, Seattle. Most days, I work as a data analyst for a mid-sized tech company downtown. Numbers have always made sense to me. They are clear, logical, and honest, unlike the shifting, unspoken expectations that seem to govern my family. At work, I am valued for my precision and diligence. At home, I often feel like a background character in someone else's story. I grew up in a family of 5. My parents, both practical and hardworking, built a small but successful real estate business from scratch. My older brother, Matt, was always the golden child. He inherited Dad's charm and Mom's ambition, and by the time he turned 30, he was already managing the family business. Family dinners revolved around his stories, his latest deals, his golf scores, the new car he bought last spring. My younger sister, Lily, is the free spirit, the artist. She floats in and out of town, painting murals and posting dreamy photos on Instagram. My parents call her our little wildflower, even when she misses birthdays or forgets to call home for weeks. And then there's me. I was the quiet one, the responsible one. The one who brought straight A's home but never made a fuss. The one who helped Mom with dishes while Matt and Dad talked business in the den. The one who fixed the Wi-Fi, organized the family budget, and made sure the bills were paid on time when Dad was in the hospital 3 years ago. I paid off my own $47,000 in student loans, dollar by dollar, while Matt got a down payment from my parents for his first house. Last year, when I bought my own place, a 900-square-foot condo with creaky floors and a view of the canal, I did it alone. No help, no fanfare, just a quiet signature at the bank and a pizza on the living room floor. Despite this, at family gatherings, I am still just Emma. I am the one who brings spreadsheets to Thanksgiving, the one who gets asked to fix the printer, the one whose accomplishments are mentioned in passing, if at all. When relatives ask about my life, the questions are polite but perfunctory. Still working at that tech place. Any news on the dating front? There's always a comparison, subtle but sharp, to Matt's milestones or Lily's adventures. Sometimes I wonder if my family even sees me, or if I am simply the reliable backdrop to their more colorful lives. The pressure to measure up is constant, even if it's never spoken aloud. My parents love me, I know that, but their love comes with expectations. Be dependable, don't make waves, don't ask for too much. When I borrowed $2,000 from Mom for car repairs last year, I paid it back within 6 months. Still, I sensed a lingering disappointment, as if needing help was a mark against me. Matt, on the other hand, has borrowed far more, with little urgency to repay. Lily's debts are forgiven with a sigh and a fond shake of the head. Sometimes, late at night, I replay old conversations in my mind. I wonder if I am too sensitive, if I expect too much. Maybe this is just how families work, roles assigned early and hard to escape. But I can't help feeling invisible, weighed down by the quiet certainty that no matter how hard I work, I will always be the one who is overlooked, the one who is good but never quite good enough. Still, I keep showing up. I keep hoping that one day, someone will notice, that one day, being just Emma will be enough. The day of Matt's wedding felt like a performance in a theater where I was both invisible and exposed. The venue was a sprawling estate outside of Bellevue, with manicured lawns and white tents strung with fairy lights. My parents spared no expense, over $60,000. I'd overheard Mom brag to her friends. There were nearly 200 guests, friends and family from both coasts, everyone dressed in their finest. I wore a navy blue dress I'd bought on sale for $89, careful not to stand out, careful not to embarrass anyone. I arrived early, as always, hoping to help, to be useful. The wedding planner, a brisk woman with a clipboard, handed me a list. "Emma, can you double-check the seating chart? There's been a last-minute change." I nodded, grateful for something to do. I spent the next hour rearranging place cards, making sure the gluten-free meals were marked, smoothing out creases in white linen napkins. No one really noticed, but I was used to that. When it was time for the ceremony, I found my seat, table 14, near the back, next to distant cousins I barely remembered. I scanned the program, searching for my name. Matt's friends were ushers, Lily was a bridesmaid. I wasn't in the wedding party. I wasn't even listed as a sibling in the program. Just Emma Carter, guest. My throat tightened, but I told myself it didn't matter. It was Matt's day. The reception was a blur of speeches, laughter, and clinking glasses. I handed Matt and his new wife, Rachel, my wedding gift, a check for $500, more than I could really afford. But I wanted them to know I cared. Rachel barely glanced at it before passing it to her mother. Later, I saw the gift table piled high with envelopes and boxes, some with Tiffany ribbons, others with designer labels. I wondered if my gift would even be noticed. After dinner, I slipped out to the terrace for some air. The night was cool, the sky streaked with the last light of sunset. I heard voices behind me, Rachel and her bridesmaids, laughing, tipsy on champagne.
I mean, did you see Emma's dress? One of them snickered. So plain, I guess data analysts don't make much.
Rachel's voice was sharper, edged with something I hadn't heard before. She's always so eager to help, like she's trying to prove something. Matt says she borrowed money from their mom last year. Maybe she's hoping for a handout. The words hit me like a slap. I pressed myself against the railing, willing myself not to cry. I wanted to disappear, to melt into the shadows. I thought about the $2,000 I'd borrowed for my car repairs, how I'd paid it back with interest, how I'd agonized over asking for help in the first place. I thought about the hours I'd spent helping with wedding spreadsheets, tracking RSVPs, even negotiating with the caterer to save them $200 on the menu. None of it mattered. I was still the outsider, the one they whispered about. I tried to compose myself, but when I returned inside, Rachel was waiting. She pulled me aside, her smile brittle. "Emma, I know you're good with numbers. I was wondering if you could help us with the honeymoon fund. We're a little short after all the expenses. Maybe you could contribute a bit more, since you're not really involved in the wedding party." My cheeks burned. I managed to stammer. "I already gave a gift." She shrugged as if it was nothing. "Just thought I'd ask. You're always so helpful." I walked away, my heart pounding. I felt exposed, humiliated, like every insecurity I'd ever had was on display. I found my parents near the dance floor, laughing with relatives. I wanted to tell them what had happened. But when I opened my mouth, Dad just said, "Emma, can you help us settle the bar tab? The bartender said there's a $500 balance." I paid it, using my credit card, telling myself I'd sort it out later. But as I watched Matt and Rachel dance, surrounded by applause and camera flashes, I realized I was alone, not just at the wedding, but in my own family. I was useful, dependable, invisible, and now I was also deeply, quietly hurt, wounded in a way I wasn't sure anyone would ever notice. I stood there for a long moment after Rachel's request, her words echoing in my mind, mingling with the laughter and music from the ballroom. I felt as if the world had tilted, as if I was a guest at someone else's life. My face burned with humiliation, but beneath that, a cold, hard anger began to settle. I wanted to scream, to tell Rachel how much it hurt to be treated like a walking checkbook, to tell Matt how it felt to be invisible on the most important day of his life. But the words caught in my throat, strangled by years of swallowing my pride. Instead, I managed a brittle smile, nodded, and walked away. I didn't trust myself to speak. I didn't trust myself not to cry. I wandered through the crowd, feeling like a ghost. I saw Matt laughing with his friends, Rachel posing for photos with her parents, my own mother bustling around, making sure everything was perfect. No one noticed me. No one saw the way my hands shook as I pulled my phone from my purse and texted my best friend, Leah. "They asked me for more money. After everything, I just want to go home." She replied almost instantly, "Emma, you don't deserve this. You're not their ATM. Please, stand up for yourself." I stared at her words, my vision blurring. I wanted to believe her, but all I could feel was a familiar ache, a dull, persistent pain that had followed me for years. I remembered other moments, other wounds that had never quite healed. I remembered my high school graduation when Matt had missed my speech because he was closing his first big real estate deal, and my parents had said, "We're so proud of both of you." I remembered the Christmas when Lily forgot my gift and Mom had laughed. "She's an artist, honey. She's forgetful." I remembered every time I'd been the one to drive someone to the airport at dawn, to lend money, to fix the printer, to listen to everyone else's problems. I remembered the time I'd gotten a promotion at work and told my family over dinner, and Dad had said, "That's nice. Emma, Matt, how's the new office coming along?" Each memory was a small cut, a reminder that I was always the helper, never the star. I had told myself it didn't matter, that being needed was enough. But tonight, standing in the shadows of Matt's wedding, I realized how tired I was, tired of being useful and invisible, tired of being taken for granted. I found a quiet corner near the coat check and sat down, my hands clenched in my lap. I thought about the wonder $500 bar tab I'd just paid, about the $500 check I'd given Matt and Rachel, about the hours I'd spent helping with their wedding planning. I thought about the $2,000 I'd borrowed from Mom last year, how I'd paid it back with interest, how she'd never let me forget it. I thought about all the times I'd put my own needs last, telling myself that family came first. But what did family mean? If it meant sacrificing my dignity, my self-respect, was it really love if it was always conditional, always measured in favors and dollars and silent expectations? I felt a wave of shame, not just at how they treated me, but at how I had allowed it. I had always wanted to be the good daughter, the reliable sister. I had always believed that if I just did enough, gave enough, I would finally be seen, finally be valued. But tonight, I saw the truth. No amount of giving would ever be enough. They would always take, and I would always be left empty. I stood up, smoothed my dress, and walked back into the ballroom. The music was louder now, the dance floor crowded. I caught Matt's eye across the room. He smiled, oblivious, and waved me over. For a moment, I hesitated. I wanted to go to him, to tell him how I felt, to ask, just once, to be seen, but I knew it wouldn't matter, not tonight. Instead, I walked to my parents. Mom was fussing with the centerpieces. Dad was checking his watch. I took a deep breath. "I'm going to head out," I said quietly. Mom barely looked up. "So soon? The cake hasn't even been cut." "I'm not feeling well," I lied. Dad nodded, distracted. "Drive safe, kiddo." No one asked if I was okay. No one hugged me goodbye. As I walked out into the cool night air, I felt strangely light, as if a weight had been lifted. I knew I couldn't keep doing this, couldn't keep giving and giving, hoping for scraps of affection. I got into my car, sat for a moment in the silence, and let myself cry. Not just for tonight, but for every time I had been overlooked, every time I had been made to feel small. I thought about the years ahead, about all the family events and obligations that would come. I realized I didn't have to keep playing this role. I didn't have to keep sacrificing my own happiness for people who didn't see me. That night, I made a decision. I would stop offering financial help unless I truly wanted to. I would stop volunteering to fix things, to organize, to smooth things over. I would stop measuring my worth by how useful I was to my family. It wasn't easy. The guilt was there, a familiar ache in my chest. I thought about how disappointed my parents would be, how Matt might call me selfish, how Lily would roll her eyes and say I was being dramatic. But I also felt something else, a flicker of hope, a sense of possibility. Maybe, just maybe, I could start living for myself. As I drove home through the quiet streets, Seattle's skyline glowing in the distance, I promised myself that I would try. I would try to find my own voice, to set my own boundaries, to believe that I was enough, even if my family never said it out loud. In the days that followed, I kept my distance. I didn't answer every text. I didn't offer to help with the honeymoon fund. When Mom called to ask if I could lend Matt some money for a business opportunity, I said no. My voice shook, but I said it anyway. For the first time in a long time, I felt proud of myself, not for what I had done for others, but for what I was doing for me. Still, late at night, the doubts crept in. Was I abandoning my family? Was I being selfish, or was I finally choosing to respect myself? I didn't have all the answers, but I knew I couldn't go back, not now, not after everything. And as I drifted off to sleep, I wondered if maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something new. The week after Matt's wedding felt like a long gray tunnel. I went to work, answered emails, ran my code, and stared at spreadsheets. But my mind kept drifting back to that night. The humiliation clung to me like a second skin. I replayed Rachel's words, the snide laughter of her friends, the way my parents had barely noticed when I left. I kept telling myself to move on, to let it go. But the ache lingered. I felt hollowed out, like I'd left some vital part of myself behind on that dance floor. I hadn't spoken to anyone in my family since the wedding. My phone buzzed with group texts, photos of Matt and Rachel on their honeymoon in Maui, updates about Lily's latest mural in Portland, reminders about Dad's birthday dinner next month. I ignored them all. I needed space to breathe, to remember who I was when I wasn't trying so hard to be good. It was a Thursday evening, just as I was pouring myself a glass of wine, when my phone rang. Jake's name flashed on the screen. I hesitated, then answered. Emma, hey, it's Jake. His voice was tight, almost shaky. Listen, something happened. I thought you should know. My heart thudded. What is it? He took a deep breath. So, you remember Aunt Linda's bracelet, the one that went missing at the wedding? Of course I remembered. The accusation had hung over the whole night, a silent poison. Yeah, I said quietly. Well, the rental house had security cameras in the hallway. The owner just sent the footage to Aunt Linda. It wasn't you, Emma, it was Tyler. He took the bracelet. He pawned it for $1,500. He confessed. He's really sorry. He said he needed the money for his student loans. I sat down hard on the edge of my bed, the room spinning. For a moment, I couldn't speak. Relief washed over me, then a wave of exhaustion. I wanted to cry, but mostly I felt numb. The truth was out. I was innocent. But no one had believed me, not even my own parents. Jake's voice was small. I'm so sorry, Emma. I should have said something. I didn't know what to think. It's okay, I said, though it wasn't. Thanks for telling me. After we hung up, I sat in silence, staring at the wall. I thought about Tyler, about the desperation in his choice. I thought about Aunt Linda, about the way she'd looked at me that night, her eyes cold and suspicious. I thought about Matt, about Rachel, about my parents. I wondered if they would even care that I'd been cleared, or if they would just move on, relieved that the family name was safe. Later that night, Matt called. His voice was hesitant, softer than usual. Hey, I heard about the bracelet. I'm sorry, we all jumped to conclusions. I should have had your back. I almost said, it's too late, but I just listened, the silence stretching between us. He cleared his throat. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I'm sorry. I wanted to scream, to ask why it was always so easy for them to doubt me, so hard to see me. But I just said, thanks for calling, Matt. He paused. Are you coming to Dad's birthday dinner? I don't know yet, I replied. I need some time. After we hung up, I lay awake for hours, the city lights flickering outside my window. I felt vindicated, but also strangely empty. The truth was out, but the damage remained. I wondered if anything would really change. Dad's birthday dinner was the following Saturday. I debated skipping it, but something in me refused to hide. I wore a simple green dress, did my hair, and arrived at the restaurant 10 minutes late. The whole family was there, Matt and Rachel, Lily, Aunt Linda, Uncle Steve, Tyler and his parents, even Jake. The air was thick with tension, everyone glancing at me, then away.
As I slid into my seat, Aunt Linda stood up. Her voice trembled. Emma, I owe you an apology. I should never have doubted you. I'm so sorry.
All eyes turned to me. I felt the weight of their stares, the expectation that I would forgive, that I would smooth things over. I looked at Tyler, who couldn't meet my gaze. I took a breath. Thank you, Aunt Linda. I appreciate that. Matt cleared his throat. Emma, I'm sorry, too. We all are. We should have known better.
Rachel chimed in, her voice brittle. Yes, Emma, I'm sorry for what I said at the wedding. It wasn't fair.
I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. My parents looked at me, their faces drawn. Dad reached for my hand. We love you, Emma. We're proud of you. We made a mistake. I felt a surge of conflicting emotions, relief, anger, sadness, even a flicker of hope. For so long, I had wanted this moment, this recognition, but now that it was here, it felt hollow, too little and too late. Dinner passed in a blur, conversation was stilted, everyone tiptoeing around the elephant in the room. I watched Tyler, saw the shame etched into his face. I wondered what would happen to him, if he would be forgiven as easily as I was blamed. After dessert, something unexpected happened. My 9-year-old cousin, Sophie, stood up. She was tiny, with wild curls and bright eyes. She cleared her throat, holding a folded piece of paper. "I want to say something," she announced, her voice trembling. "Aunt Emma is my favorite. She always helps me with my math homework, and she never makes me feel stupid. When I lost my backpack last year, everyone thought I was just being messy, but Aunt Emma helped me find it. She believed me. I think we should all try to be more like her." The room fell silent. I felt tears prick my eyes, unexpected and sharp. Sophie's words cut through the tension, laying bare what I had always hoped someone might see. Matt looked at me, his eyes shining. "She's right. You know, we take you for granted. I'm sorry." Even Rachel nodded, her expression softening. "You're the glue, Emma. We wouldn't have gotten through the wedding without you." For the first time, I felt truly seen, not just as the helper, the fixer, but as someone who mattered in her own right. After dinner, as we lingered by the door, Aunt Linda pressed an envelope into my hand. "It's not much, but it's a start, for the bar tab, and for everything else." I hesitated, then accepted it. "Thank you." As we walked out into the night, Lily slipped her arm through mine. "You know, you don't have to do everything for us. You can just be Emma." I smiled, the knot in my chest loosening. Maybe it's time I try. We stood in the parking lot, the family drifting around us, laughter rising into the cool air. For the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of possibility, a sense that maybe things could be different, if I was willing to claim my own worth. But even as I basked in the warmth of Sophie's words, I knew the journey wasn't over. Forgiveness is complicated. Trust, once broken, is slow to heal. I would have to decide what boundaries to set, what wounds to let go, what parts of myself to protect. Still, as I drove home that night, I felt lighter. I was no longer invisible. I was no longer just the helper. I was Emma, and that was enough, for now. Confrontation and boundaries. The invitation to Sunday dinner arrived via group text, as it always did. Family dinner at Mom and Dad's. 6 p.m., bring sides. My thumb hovered over the screen. For weeks, I'd avoided these gatherings, skipping birthday parties and holiday brunches. But tonight felt different. The truth about the bracelet was out. Apologies had been made, and yet nothing had truly changed. I needed to say what I'd carried for decades. I arrived with a store-bought salad, my hands steady but my pulse racing. The house smelled of rosemary and roasted chicken, the same as it had since childhood. Matt and Rachel were already there, their newborn asleep in a carrier on the couch. Lily lounged in the armchair, scrolling through her phone. Mom bustled in with a platter of rolls, her smile tight when she saw me. "Emma, you're here," she said, too brightly. "Can you check the oven timer? I think the chicken's almost done." Old habits nearly pulled me toward the kitchen, but I stayed rooted in the doorway. "Actually, Mom, I need to talk to everyone first." The room stilled. Matt looked up from his phone. Lily paused her scrolling. Dad emerged from the den, a newspaper in hand. "What's this about?" he asked, his tone casual, as if we were discussing the weather. I set the salad on the table and faced them. "I'm not your errand runner anymore. I'm not your fixer, and I'm done being the family ATM." Rachel let out a nervous laugh. "Emma, no one thinks of you that way." "Really?" I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and slid it across the table. In the past 2 years, I've lent Matt $3,500 for business expenses that were never repaid. I covered Lily's rent for 3 months when she was between gigs. That's $4,200. And let's not forget the $500 bar tab I paid at your wedding, Rachel, which no one even thanked me for. The room fell silent. Mom's cheeks flushed. Dad adjusted his glasses, avoiding my gaze. Matt stood, defensive. "We've had this conversation, Em. I told you I'd pay you back when things stabilize." "When?" My voice cracked. "It's been 2 years. Matt, you just bought a new boat. And last month, Mom asked me to contribute to your baby shower because family helps family. But when I needed $2,000 for car repairs, I had to hear about it for months." Lily rolled her eyes. "Here we go. The martyr routine." Martyr, I turned to her, my chest tight. You crashed my car sophomore year and left me to handle the $3,000 in repairs. You never apologized. You never even thanked me. That was 10 years ago. And last week, you asked me to fund your art show. She threw up her hands. It's a tax write-off. You're so uptight about money.
Enough, Dad's voice boomed, his newspaper crumpling in his grip. Emma, we're family. We help each other. That's what we do. No, the word came out sharp. Final. You help them. I'm just the one who cleans up the mess. I looked at Mom, her hands clenched around the oven mitts.
When was the last time you asked Matt to organize a family reunion? Or Lily to host Thanksgiving? It's always me, and when I say no, I'm selfish. When I ask for help, I'm needy. Mom's voice trembled. We never meant to make you feel that way. But you did. I took a step back, steadying myself. At the wedding, Rachel asked me for more money after accusing me of stealing. You all watched me leave that night. No one called, no one cared. Rachel stiffened. That was a misunderstanding. We apologized. An apology doesn't fix 20 years of being invisible. I met Matt's eyes, my throat burning. You're my brother. You knew how hard I worked to buy my condo, but at my housewarming, you joked about how cute my place was compared to yours, like I hadn't earned every square foot. He shifted uncomfortably. I didn't mean it like that. You never do. The oven timer beeped, shrill and insistent. No one moved. I'm done, I said quietly. I won't lend money anymore. I won't plan parties or fix problems. If you want me here, it has to be as me, not as your assistant, not as your bank. Dad shook his head, his voice weary. Emma, this isn't how family works. Then maybe our family's been broken for a long time. The words hung in the air, heavy and irreversible. Mom wiped her eyes with an oven mitt. Lily stared at the floor. Matt sank back into his chair, running a hand through his hair. Only the baby slept soundly, oblivious. Finally, Rachel spoke, her tone softer. What do you want from us, Emma? I want you to see me, to respect me, to stop treating me like I'm just convenient. No one answered. The silence stretched, thick with guilt and defiance. I picked up my purse. Dinner's burning. As I walked to the door, Mom called after me. Emma, wait, stay, let's talk this through. I paused, my hand on the knob. For a moment, I almost turned back. But then I remembered the countless times I'd swallowed my pride, the years I'd spent hoping they'd change. I'll talk, I said, when you're ready to listen. Outside, the evening air was cool, the sky streaked with orange and purple. I drove home in silence, my hands gripping the wheel. There was no euphoria, no triumphant relief, just a quiet certainty that I'd finally spoken the truth. Later, as I sat on my balcony overlooking the canal, my phone buzzed. A text from Lily. You're right, I'm sorry. Another from Matt. I'll start paying you back next month. For real this time. And one from Mama. We love you. We'll try harder. I didn't reply. Not yet. For the first time, I understood that boundaries aren't walls, they're bridges, and crossing them requires effort from both sides. But as I watched the water ripple under the moonlight, I allowed myself a small, hopeful thought. Maybe now, they'll learn to meet me halfway. Open ending and message. It's been several months since that dinner, since I finally drew a line in the sand and stepped back from the role I'd played for so long. At first, the silence from my family was deafening. There were awkward pauses on the group texts, missed calls, and a few strained invitations that I politely declined. I could feel the shift, the discomfort, as if everyone was waiting for me to slip back into my old patterns. But I didn't. Instead, I poured my energy into my own life. I started taking long walks after work, exploring the city with fresh eyes. I signed up for a pottery class, something I'd always wanted to try but never made time for. My condo, those 900 square feet that I bought with my own sweat and sacrifice, became a sanctuary. I painted the walls warm colors, filled the shelves with books and plants, and hosted small dinners for friends who saw me, truly saw me, for who I was. My job, once just a means to an end, became a source of pride. I volunteered for projects that challenged me, mentored new hires, and even presented at a tech conference downtown. For the first time, I felt the quiet satisfaction of building something for myself, of being recognized for my own merit, not for what I could do for others, but for who I was. My relationships changed, too. Leah, my best friend, became my chosen family. We spent weekends hiking, cooking, and talking late into the night about everything and nothing. I realized how much lighter life felt when I wasn't carrying the weight of unmet expectations, when I could just be Emma, no labels, no roles, no debts to repay. Of course, there were moments of doubt. On holidays, when my phone buzzed with photos of family gatherings, I felt a pang of loneliness. I missed the familiar chaos, the inside jokes, the sense of belonging, even if it was conditional. Sometimes, I wondered if I was being too harsh, if forgiveness meant letting go and moving on. But then I remembered the years of being overlooked, the times I'd been made to feel small. I reminded myself that boundaries are not punishments, they are acts of self-respect. Slowly, my family began to adjust. Matt paid back the money he owed, a little at a time, without being asked. Lily sent me a painting for my birthday, a swirling canvas of blues and greens with a note that simply said, "Thank you for always believing in me." Mom and Dad called more often, not to ask for favors, but just to talk. The conversations were tentative, sometimes awkward, but honest in a way they hadn't been before. I realized that by stepping back, by refusing to play the role they had written for me, I'd given them a chance to see me differently. Maybe even to see themselves differently. I no longer needed their approval to feel whole. I was learning, day by day, to approve of myself. Now, when I look in the mirror, I see someone who is still growing, still healing, but no longer defined by the shadows of her family's expectations. I am learning to forgive, not just them, but myself. For all the years I stayed silent, for all the times I tried to earn love instead of simply accepting it. Sometimes I wonder, how many of us are living in the margins of our own lives, waiting for someone else to tell us we matter? How many times do we let others define our worth, our boundaries, our dreams, and what would happen if we stopped waiting, if we chose to step into the light and claim our own value? Maybe the real question isn't whether our families will ever truly see us, but whether we are willing to see ourselves, to set boundaries, to demand respect, to forgive, not because they deserve it, but because we do. So I ask you, whoever you are, wherever you are in your own story, what would it look like to live for yourself? Where do you draw the line between loyalty and self-respect, between forgiveness and self-preservation? Have you ever had to redefine your worth, not for others, but for yourself? I'd love to hear your story. Maybe, together, we can remind each other that being seen starts from within and that sometimes, the bravest thing we can do is simply choose ourselves.